Guys, in this video, I'm going to read this article from the left's perspective about the 2020 Olympics. If you go ahead and click on it, it'll open it up, and you'll notice this one's on a Google Doc rather than a website. The article was just really, really long, but it fit for a current event report, so I went ahead and put it in a Google Doc and got rid of the unnecessary information, so that way it was a lot shorter. In this video, I'm going to go ahead and read this article aloud. Feel free to follow along, and I'll give you some hints on what to write down for notes. Remember, your notes really focus on, according to this article, what are the pros and cons of hosting the Olympics, and then if there's any regulations that should be imposed according to this article. Remember that this article is biased to the left, so if you don't agree with this information, that's okay. You just want to be aware of the other side's perspective. So starting with the very top, Olympians enter a risky new event, line jumping. Some nations are prioritizing Olympians for vaccinations. Others say athletes will wait their turn. The choices could determine if the Tokyo Games are a sporting spectacle or a super spreader event. So even just within this first little section right here, I'll go ahead and highlight it on the screen right here, we can kind of get an idea where the left's perspective is leaning. We can see that they are looking at the Tokyo Games as a possible good thing because it's a sporting celebration, or as a bad thing like a super spreader event. And it looks like they might be talking about some sort of like vaccination pool for athletes. We'll go ahead and keep on reading, see if any of that is true, but we can kind of get an idea of where they lean. In the ongoing debate of how to distribute limited supplies of the coronavirus vaccine, the consensus often starts with a few groups of people: doctors and nurses, the ill and the aging, frontline workers, and teachers. At no point, typically, would elite athletes, such as nation's finest synchronized swimmers, fastest sprinters, or its top gymnasts and badminton players, be considered as people who should get the vaccine early. And yet, here we are debating whether or not the athletes should get the vaccine before many others in need right before the summer's Tokyo Olympics. It is not just a question of ethics, it's a question of logistics. If some governments aren't able to get enough vaccines over the next few months, the Olympics could be a global super spreader event rather than a celebration of international sports. All right, so according to this article, we go ahead and write down, if not enough people get the vaccine, the Olympics could be a super spreader event. That's according to this article, the left's perspective. All right, starting with in any other year. In any other year, professional athletes, who are usually young and healthy, would be ushered to the back of the line for vaccinations. This year, though, with the Olympic Games to open in Japan, where rising case counts already this year forced many of the country's largest cities into a state of emergency, the question has become rather hard to answer. We could also write that down in our notes, that con would be Japan already has rising cases in a state of emergency in their large cities, according to this article. All right, continuing on, a growing number. A growing number of countries have announced that they will push their Olympians to the front of their vaccination lines. Mexico, for example, this month placed his country's athletes in a priority group alongside medical workers and teachers. Lithuania has moved even faster. It began administering vaccine shots to its Olympians weeks ago. Neither Japanese organizers nor the International Olympic Committee will require proof of vaccination or quarantine periods for anyone attending or competing in the Games, though there will be regular testing for athletes, coaches, journalists, and officials while they are in Japan. So this one kind of mentioned there's not going to be required vaccinations, but regular testing. Other national Olympic committees, I'll go back to our article. Other national Olympic committees, out of a sense of moral duty or just fear of public backlash, have said publicly that they will not ask for preferential treatment in vaccinations for their athletes. I certainly don't think that there is any reason why athletes should be given special treatment, said Evan Dunphy, an elite race walker from Canada, a country where Olympians so far do not have vaccine priority. Athletes are essential workers, said Arthur Kaplan, a professor of medical ethics at the New York University School of Medicine. Other countries such as Denmark, Serbia, and the Philippines have said they will usher prospective Olympians toward the front of their vaccination line. This kind of seems unfair, right? Like some will get the vaccine, some will not. I don't know if that's going to affect their performance or not. Kaplan said that not enough attention is being paid to the mental health side effects of the widespread lockdowns. He said sports, in that regard, provides a healthy distraction. Okay, so according to this article, the one person that they quoted, this Olympics could be a healthy distraction. I can spell Olympics right. Maybe we should do what we need to make it possible for them to entertain us, to help us bear up under a tough isolation circumstance, he said. Dick Pound, kind of an unfortunate name, a powerful International Olympic Committee member from Canada, suggested last month that taking 300 or 400 vaccines out of several million for athletes in Canada should not warrant any public outcry. So they're kind of pointing out the fact that, this would only be a small amount of the vaccines. But many everyday citizens, millions of them just as eager to get vaccinated, would disagree. So this one, you can kind of see the bias right here. They're saying millions of people are eager to get vaccinated when there are a lot of people who are worried about getting vaccinated or nervous about it. This event could help everyone get their minds off the long, stressful pandemic, but it could just as easily make things worse by spreading more of the virus. The Olympics will, after all, bring together representatives of more than 200 countries and then send them home to every corner of the globe after several weeks of competition. So according to this article, this could be really, really dangerous. Really focusing on the danger of getting everyone together for a long period of time and then sending back. We could go ahead and write could spread the virus even more. Back to our article, athletes in the U.S. Athletes in the U.S. agree that they should wait their proper place in line, said Bree Schaaf, a former Olympian who is now the chair of Team USA Athletes Advisory Council. A survey of German Olympic athletes this year showed how torn these Olympic athletes feel. 73% of the athletes responded that they agreed with the current vaccination protocols that did not give them special treatment. But when asked if they should receive priority if the vaccination was required in order to compete, 70% said yes, they should get that special treatment. In other countries, such as Mexico, there has been a spike in cases, but still very few vaccines. The Mexican president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, put Olympic athletes into a priority group with medical workers and teachers, ensuring they would receive both doses of the vaccine in time for the Games. This declaration didn't seem to upset people. So even though he put priority for them, people were like, yeah, okay, that's all right. This is also a hard decision for the International Olympic Committee and organizers of the Tokyo Games. When the athletes arrive in Japan in July, they will be entering a country that is nowhere close to herd immunity. Japan started vaccinating healthcare workers only in mid-February, and it does not plan to start vaccinating older residents until mid-April. So we could go ahead and, according to this article, we can kind of add on that Japan already has rising cases, and not a lot of people have been vaccinated. Right, back to our article. Having thousands of unvaccinated people from hundreds of countries get together could be bad, but having athletes around the world being perceived as skipping the line to get vaccinated, however, would not be a good look for the Olympics, which is already upsetting people with their many delays, high cost, and COVID regulations. The response from Olympic officials and local organizers has been to share the responsibility with governments and national Olympic committees, encouraging them to find ways to get their athletes and coaches vaccinated, declaring publicly that national protocols should be followed, and hoping for the best.